Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to talk about traveling, more specifically some lessons I have learned from traveling the world. I've said this often, but I think there is nothing that can compare to the mindset that is created when you travel, and it is for sure the one thing that has shaped me most into the person I am today. So for this video, I've thought about a few things and lessons I have learned because of and during my travels. Number one, the unimportance of physical belongings. I went through a phase in my life where I thought physical things were still more important than I see them to be now, and so because of that, when I would travel, I would mostly take a huge suitcase with me with all kinds of things, because I guess I kind of felt like I needed all those things to feel prepared and safe. Over time, I realized that mostly I wouldn't even use like less than half of the things that I'd taken with me, and I saw how insignificant the physical belongings I had with me were in comparison to what I was experiencing, which then made me understand how insignificant physical belongings are in general in all aspects of my life. That doesn't mean I can't choose to own things or want to own things, but I've seen how insignificant physical belongings in my life are in comparison to what I want to be experiencing. Number two, the beauty of things changing. I used to be a very sentimental person in terms of identifying a lot with certain places and certain memories. I would hate it if I felt like anything was going to change, and because of that, I would oftentimes try to hold on to memories. So I would collect a lot of things that reminded me of a certain time, or I would take loads of pictures because I didn't want to let go of these moments that I would have, that I was having, which would then turn into memories. For example, roughly 4 years ago, I was still identifying with the things around me more than I do now, and I was packing to go on a trip for 6 months where I would leave my home for the entire time, and I remember feeling so sad about leaving because all the things in my room and just like my home in general felt like me. I didn't want to leave that behind. It made me feel extremely unsafe to leave all of that behind. Ironically, like 3-4 weeks into the trip, I wasn't even remembering my home that I had left behind, and I was feeling at home in this new place and in this new environment so easily. Those experiences, so traveling away from home for longer periods of time, really made me learn that it's not very smart to start identifying myself with what's around me. I could literally give away everything I own right now and move to a new place easily, or at least easier than before, because I've realized that it's so easy to adapt to a new environment once you allow it. And I've also realized that home is where I am and not where my things are or where my room is, and that understanding has created so much more space for freedom and new experiences in my life. Number three, my view on animals. Most of our world see animals as if they are below us, oftentimes seeing them as dumb or unaware, and also oftentimes thinking that we have the right to decide whether they live or not. During my travels, I've had a lot of beautiful moments and encounters with animals, and I've also heard a lot of stories from other people, and those moments have really shaped my opinions on all kinds of things, such as eating animal meat, how we treat animals, animals in captivity, and pretty much everything in between. There are several moments and stories that I could choose from to share, but one that specifically stayed in my mind is a story a marine biologist told me about when she was snorkeling and she saw a Monterey in the water. Sadly, the Monterey had gotten caught in a fishing net, and the fishing net had been on him for so long that it had basically already cut his fin in half at the top. So she decided to swim back to the boat and get a little knife to try and get that fishing net off of the animal. Maybe it's important to know that if you meet a manta in real life, most likely they are not going to be interested in human contact other than if you have like food or something. So probably they will just either ignore you or then swim away. But for some reason, this manta on some level understood that she was trying to help him. So he basically just stayed in the water pretty close to the surface, maybe like 3 meters, without moving while she was like swimming up to get air and down again to cut the net off, up to get air, down again to cut the net off, because the net was so entangled that it took a while. Keep in mind that entire time the manta ray literally did not move. I saw the video because they filmed it. It was crazy. And then once the net was off, and that really took a while because it was so entangled, the manta ray swam below her and basically helped her back up to the surface, those like 3 meters she was trying to dive down, stayed at the boat for like 5 seconds and then just swam away. In moments like that, when I saw the video, you understand how incredibly smart and special animals are, and how we probably only understand a few percentage of their world and are basically making assumptions based on those few percent we understand. Sadly, it's not only the beautiful moments that shape those opinions. In most first world countries, the bad things happen behind closed doors, but if you travel anywhere else, you will most likely see animals killed and tortured in plain sight, and those moments really make you reconsider what we are taught about animals and how much of that might not even be true. Number 4, how similar we all are. I think because of the fact that we have so many different cultures and so many different kinds of people on this world, it oftentimes feels like we are all very different and we can't really relate to each other, which on the surface level might be true, but obviously if you look at the core, that's not the case. You often hear that statement like we are all born the same, from the core we are all the same, but I think we oftentimes don't really understand what that statement truly means. For example, if we take the people living in the mountains of Switzerland and then the people living in the northern areas of Pakistan, they would probably not get along very well just because they have very different approaches, very different views on life, very different ideas, and they would most likely also have very negative assumptions towards each other. But when I was walking through the villages in northern Pakistan, I realized how the people there are living so similar to the people in Switzerland 100 years ago. I say 100 years because technology obviously hasn't caught up there just yet, but if you looked at the games the children were playing on the streets, how the people build their houses, how they grow their food, their values, the importance of family, it's quite similar. Obviously, we grow up in different societies and we take on different beliefs and ideas, and those make us feel very different from each other. But when you really look at the core of how we function and how we live life and what is important to us, it's so similar, and understanding that and seeing that firsthand was so cool because it really made me understand that these differences we feel are not something we are born with, they are trained over the years. Number 5, how many prejudices are still created through and within the media, and how much of that we are still believing. Obviously, some people more than others. I personally have always seen myself as someone who doesn't believe everything the media says and is quite open-minded, but when you travel, you see how it's inevitable to be affected by those false ideas as we grow up or in the media, and how much traveling can help to break those false ideas. There are several different countries and places this can be applied to, but one experience I've had myself is when it comes to the northern areas of Pakistan. Oftentimes this area is portrayed in a very intensely negative way in the media. I have literally told people I'm going there and they've been like, why are you going there? Like, isn't that just like a desert with guns and bombs? And yes, this area has big problems and those concepts don't just come from thin air, but when I got there and I saw firstly how much that is not the case, and then also the hurt of the people living there that their home is portrayed in that way. I was once driving from one area to another there, and we got stopped by a police officer because they wanted to like check our IDs or something. And I remember they weren't conscious thoughts of mine, but I was feeling nervous in that situation because I was like, okay, northern Pakistan, police officer, what's happening? And we got stopped and I looked out of the window in the car and I see that the policemen had written "Police is your friend" on their house, and we ended up having like a 30-minute conversation with this police officer about his family and his home, and also about how hurt he is that his home, his country, is portrayed in such a negative way in the media, how excited he is to see tourists in his home, and how he really wants to be a part of contributing to that new idea of this country. And that made me see that no matter how open-minded you think you are, when you travel, you see how much you've been affected by some things that you've heard when you've grown up or through the media, and really how much traveling can contribute to getting rid of those false ideas. Number 6, putting things into perspective. Oftentimes, life can feel extremely overwhelming, and there are many people who walk around with a deep unhappiness within themselves, because if you look at it, we have so many questions without any answers regarding just like life in general and what this is. And if you look at it from that perspective, life can feel extremely negative and overwhelming at times. But those really special moments I've had when I've traveled, for example, seeing a whale in real life, or seeing the stars at night, seeing a city from the top of a viewpoint, or meeting a person who's been really kind and selfless, those moments have really put things into perspective for me, and they've oftentimes done two things. For once, they've made the problems and challenges in my life seem smaller, and in that case easier to handle, but they've also been the moments, for example, when I've seen a whale in real life, where I've felt an extreme amount of excitement for life, being alive, and I think kind of a sense of hope even. Because I've been like, if something that beautiful exists, like a whale in real life, when you actually see it, when something that beautiful exists, then maybe life isn't that bad. Like maybe it's okay. Maybe I will manage. Number 6, understanding privilege. This is a simple one, but also a big one. It's very easy to start getting used to a certain living standard or a government you can rely on, especially if you don't know anything else. And in that case, it also becomes easy to start complaining or taking things for granted. I live in Germany, one of the safest countries in the world, and I see so many people around me complaining about things that are literally a privilege in other countries. And really understanding privilege, because I haven't really done anything to earn that privilege. It relies on the fact of where I was born, and as I said, I haven't done anything to earn that. So just understanding privilege, and I think everyone can do that because we are all privileged in some sort of way. Number 7, that we are all responsible for the entire planet. Oftentimes we think in terms of borders and countries. So if we look at, for example, how we are treating the environment, it's easy to think that you're doing a good job if that's how it seems in your country, while kind of forgetting that borders are a human construct. So the choices I make inevitably affect the animals in Papua New Guinea, they affect the people in South America, they affect the ice in the Arctic melting, and understanding that gave me a new sense of responsibility I didn't feel before, because when you think about it, if one of us goes down, we all go down. And so really understanding that just because it looks fine in my country because I have that privilege, that doesn't mean that my choices aren't also affecting other countries that don't have the resources to handle those problems as well as my country. So yeah, these are all the lessons and things I've thought of for this video in terms of some things I have learned from and because of my travels. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you were maybe able to take something away from it. If you did enjoy, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, check out some other videos of mine. And yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed. I hope to see you in my next video, and thank you very much for watching.